Dr. Izadi, I want to ask you about the Arab nations in the region, specifically the Arab Gulf nations, where a lot uh, of the centers of American military might are positioned in the Middle East. Of course, Iran decided in its response to the U.S. bombings over the weekend to attack the U.S. Central Command. On a military level, it makes sense to have responded toward what is essentially the epicenter of these operations. But as I listened this morning to the Prime Minister of Qatar, as he spoke alongside the Prime Minister of Lebanon, he went to great lengths to denounce Iran for its aggression against Qatar. And he mentioned the airbase, but it was almost as though U.S. Central Command is just like a hotel that is in Qatar and not the brain and the operations command center of the attacks that just occurred on Iran, of the support for Israel's operations in the region, of American military might in the Middle East. And I know that Qatar and Iran have, on many levels, a very friendly relationship and a collegial relationship. I know that that's true. On another level, though, all of these Arab states have stood by and watched the mass slaughter of the Palestinian people. They issued statements when Iran was unilaterally attacked in an unprovoked manner that, yes, they say Israel started this, as the Qatari prime minister said this morning. But when Iran then conducted its response, you then have these words, aggression, and a portrayal of it that stops just short of pretending as though there isn't a context to why Iran might have struck an American military base in Qatar. So I want to ask you about that as you watch the decimation of much of Hezbollah's capacity and certainly its leadership, as you watch the regime change operations, the genocide unfolding. What is your assessment of the position of all of these Arab countries, whether it's Egypt and Jordan participating also in the defense of Israel in earlier Iranian missile strikes, as Iran, as you say, stands alone in this battle with Ansar Allah as two nations that are responding to this? I mean, what is your assessment of the position of these Arab Gulf nations that on the one hand allow their territory to be used to facilitate the genocide, to facilitate the attacks against Iran, and on the other level sort of say, well, we don't want Israel doing this. But then at the end of the day, the strongest words seem to be reserved for condemnations of Hamas and Iran.
We are talking about dictatorships. In Egypt, they came into power through a military coup. For a short time. There was a government that came into power through elections. They had a military government. And the Arab Spring came. Egypt experienced a couple of years of a democratic government. Then there was another coup. So that's a dictatorship. And then you have these kings. It's Jordan or Saudi Arabia or the UAE or Kuwait or Qatar that depend on the United States for their rule. These dictatorships treat their country as their personal bank, personal wealth, and they basically have to listen to the United States because they depend on the United States. They are client states of the United States. So when the US tells them that we need to have a base in your country, they have to say yes. When the US tells them that you have to pay for that base and pay for the soldiers that are there, they have to say yes. When it comes to the issue of the genocide, they have to watch their language, because if they don't, then they will be criticized by the United States. And when it comes to Iran, they need to watch their language, because if they want to say anything good, then they will face difficulty. And generally, because of the nature of the governments they have, they generally don't want to say anything good about Iran, because Iran had a kingdom, and then there is a republic, and They don't want to see what happened in Iran happen in their country. So for the last 46 years since 1979 revolution, they have been hostile to Iran. So this is the reality of dictatorship, client state dictatorships that act in this manner because they are not representing their people, they're representing ruling families, royal families that depend on the United States for